All right, here we are, about to get on the train. Gonna have some great meetings on the Hill. Here from Ohio.
Let's do it.
All right.
Excited.
Woohoo!
Not just the work, but that you believe in something bigger than yourselves and you're willing to give your time and energy and your heart to it. So you have that in common, and throughout the experience, I really hope you spend time getting to know new people, because each of you in so many ways are the solution to each other, to loneliness, to connection, for answers, for collaboration. Have a wonderful conference.
So I'm here to make a special announcement, which is that for the first time we have a visiting delegation of lawmakers from another country coming to be part of the Citizen Climate Conference.
Your focus is not too different from what we have in Ghana. As we stand here, we come from two different political parties. We are here because and it tells you that when it comes to climate issues, we don't have any differences. It's a bipartisan approach. And
I really enjoy working with the CCL. You have some unique things that make you very special and probably more effective than most of the other climate-related lobbies. First of all, you have volunteers. Volunteers are constituents. Congressmen respond to constituents. Second, you don't have lobbyists. And it's really great to be able to say, we don't have any lounge lizards here, we have real people. I think the nonpartisan principle is very good, and very few people can apply what they say when they talk about nonpartisan, and you all are, and that's really important. And you're seeking reasonable things, okay? Not net zero tomorrow, but reasonable steps to accomplish real meaningful improvement in the atmosphere that we live under. I had a good friend who was a congressman from Michigan who understood where we were trying to go. And he came up to me one time and said, you know, I understand this stuff. You're absolutely right. But every time I say anything that's remotely pro-climate reform, I get carpet bombed by the right-wing media. And then I got to go out there and spend a whole lot of money on ads to fight my way back up to where I was. And so somehow or another, we got to get a better mousetrap. And I think if anybody's working on that, it's you all. It's inevitable that the dynamic will change. It's just impossible that this thing won't move forward over some people's dead bodies or not. You know, there's so much data out there, and I'll talk about some of that, and the young people have a different view. And I have given polling after polling to leadership in the Republican Party, showing them that the millennial generation and the next one after that are much more open to and scared of our environmental challenges and want to have them fixed. And so far, the leadership is kind of deer in the headlights on it.
I know we talk a lot about doom and gloom as climate advocates, but we really do need to lean into some of this positivity if we're going to get to where we're going.
Yeah.
We are focusing on climate and environmental equity, which brings us back to ourselves, to our roots, focusing on community and helping us to work together to find solutions to this problem we are all grappling with every day. And at the crux of it all, that is our collective vision, right? To not only transform ourselves as better stewards of the earth and its natural resources, but to also infuse those same values into our communities and our society so that we can get into equilibrium with nature. I'm originally, like I said, I'm originally from Roanoke, Virginia, and I am a child of environmental justice, and so the area that I lived in Roanoke, sat adjacent to a landfill and incinerator for 20 years, so it was an EJ community, and my grandma had me at 7 years old knocking doors for the NAACP. And so when I moved to DC back around 2008, it was a no-brainer that I would be working on climate and environmental justice issue. It's already pretty instilled in me. Growing up in that area, being from Appalachia, like really being deep in the sort of landscape and being surrounded by such a beautiful landscape, but also, you know, juxtaposed to, you know, human impacts and waste impacts, and really seeing, you know, what we could develop if we just put ourselves out there, used our sort of people power muscle, and really started asking for the things that we did want to see in our communities. And so
What we've been doing now with the flyers and the chalk and everything. And Philip, if you talk to my friend, he's like, wow, you're really good at this thing. And would you be interested, I know you care about climate change, in bringing it here? And so when I joined CCL, I felt from the start that I was needed, that I was like an integral part of my CCL chapter. And I think finding that with all the members and just like feeling that unit, yeah, that's made me feel like I belong and I want to stay. This is like me at a dining hall table outside where I'm having the dividend, thinking like, yeah, let's start a collective action movement. And this is maybe like a week or so into the movement, you know, more people at William and Mary are showing support, all having signs, and I even kind of what people do a lot of the time is put them on their laptops. They'll just like tape them, and there will be students at William and Mary with laptops and signs on them, which is so, it has been really cool. And this is kind of where the movement is getting. It's growing, and it's so cool.
And I think I've said this before, is just having smaller goals. When you have an issue that's so big, I don't think any of us are ever going to feel like we've accomplished all that much, right? Because the changes we want to see are just so massive. And so that's why I think it's really important to focus on smaller steps and acknowledge that each of our little contributions add up to something larger. Like, look at this room and how many people are in here, right? Each and every one of you has worked on some sort of initiative, some sort of movement. You've done some work in your chapter. And while on your own at home that may not feel so big, when you look around and see how many people have done that same thing, you realize that we are genuinely making an impact. And so I think that is also
keeping that positivity because you have to, but also keeping that positivity because if other people in other generations could keep their positivity during really terrible moments in history, then I think we can do the same through this crisis.
Up with them. We're expecting that to be a bit of an easier lift for Senate Democrats, which is why we're putting more emphasis on Senate Republicans, because we want to, if we can, keep that bill pretty even in number of co-sponsors so that we're not turning this into a Democrat proposal, but it's really staying strictly bipartisan.
We have developed a track record of success that I think we can really build on, and with the permitting debate ongoing right now, our timing could be better. And so I think we can really have an impact in this debate. One of the things when some people will talk about, we're a multi-policy organization now, and whether or not that's confusing or hard. I feel like we've been a multi-policy organization because we passed several bills. We passed the Growing Climate Solutions Act, we passed the FEST Act, we passed the Use It Act, we passed the Climate Related Fisheries Act. So we've been doing this stuff.
In order to practice MI, we have to inhibit this writing reflex. Imagine that someone came into your house and they started straightening the photos hanging on your walls. How much worse would it be if they visited your mind and started straightening out the beliefs and ideas they perceived as off-kilter. In order to establish the kind of respectful, trusting relationship that has the best chance of influencing another person, we must refrain from reflexively and immediately correcting what we perceive to be the other person's errors. That doesn't mean that we can never offer correcting information, but we have to do that in a particular way, and we need to watch for the knee-jerk tendency to correct the moment we hear someone say something, this sounds wrong. So let's turn now to another way of interacting through the central technique of motivational interviewing, which is called reflective listening. We can remember the elements of reflective listening through the acronym OARS, which stands for open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries.
And by identifying all of these appliances, we can drastically cut down greenhouse gas emissions, as well as making schools more energy efficient and have low operating costs. So the goals of our challenges are to, of course, one, reduce greenhouse gas emissions from schools. Our second goal is to, by accomplishing the first goal, to create a healthier and safer school environment for students, faculty, teachers, and also for, especially for those with health conditions, such as those with asthma. And our third goal is to improve the energy resiliency of school systems.
Right now at UCF, we have 4 whole solar charging stations. 4, really cool, right? We have 3 whole solar power stations, and we have 155 buildings on campus. So tell me if that's enough, and it's not. So that's one place we can be improved. Where is your power being generated? How are you getting your transportation? College campuses aren't just schools anymore. They're also small cities for everybody who goes to that school. So what buildings are using the most energy?
And another country that's considering a CBAM is Canada, which already has a nice carbon fee and dividend policy in place. So they have a sound basis to implement a system similar to the EU CBAM, but they haven't decided what they're going to do in this area just yet. It's also worth noting that China is now expanding its current carbon trading system to cover more goods and at higher prices. So they'll be impacted less by the EU CBAM, which is exactly in line with what CCL has been preaching for years, that when one country imposes a border adjustments, their trading partners are then encouraged to do likewise. So now we have a real example of that thanks to the EU CBAM. For all those reasons, CCL needs to continue working to break down the political barriers to equitable carbon pricing, keeping in mind that the principal reason that some people and institutions don't want this policy is the same reason we need to keep fighting for it, because it'll work to accelerate the transition away from dirty fossil fuel status quo to a clean energy economy.
So the pamphlet for the conference is indispensable. They make it really easy. They kind of assume that maybe this is your first time being in the conference. So everything's laid out. They've got all the speakers, the breakout sessions, descriptions of everything. And then when preparing for lobby day, it's pretty awesome. They've got this handy map of the metro and getting to the US Capitol so that we can take the picture that they do every year, and then getting to the different buildings that your meetings will be in. So it's just super easy, just like CCL is, well organized, well thought out, and then of course all the different meeting rooms right on the back to help you get around the hotel.
We're on a lot together. take my eyes off of the stairs.
Hey, how'd things go today?
It was terrific. It was terrific. We met with 4 congressmen. It was just great.
All right.
Text message.
Red line train, destination Shady Grove, next station stop.
Another conference in the books. Always feels good to be done, but there's always more work to do. And I just hope that we're doing enough in time. This is certainly feels better than just getting out and yelling and protesting and not talking to each other. But oftentimes the talking takes a long time. But that's why we lobby like it's hot, baby. Back to Cincinnati.